You're listening to the Precision Shooting Podcast, discussing all aspects of precision and long-range rifle shooting. This episode is brought to you by Scoped Out Shooting Optics and Accessories. And now, over to your hosts.
Well, hello and welcome to the Precision Shooting Podcast. This is episode number 91. My name is Rusty, and joining me tonight are the general ragtag of gentlemen. Over here, Andrew, how you doing?
Yeah, very well, Rusty.
Thanks for hosting us tonight.
Oh, the invoice will be in the post.
That's all right, just Mr. Badco can pay that. Speaking of Mr. Badco, the man with the golden tonsils is here.
How you going, Rusty?
I'm good, mate. How you doing?
Good.
Excellent. How have we all been, guys? It's been a bit over a month or thereabouts since we all got together and talked whatever we talk. Rubbish?
Probably not as eventful for us as it has been for you.
No, I've been keeping quiet, laying low. I don't know what you're talking about.
You need to do my job for a while.
Yeah.
Gents, have you been shooting, fishing, staring?
I've been shooting a couple of times.
Yeah.
Just
And
chasing
fishing.
foxes and fishing, yeah. Yeah, foxes are getting a bit quiet, mating season.
Okay.
They're not cooperating like you like them to. But
Non-responsive.
good to be out there. Got a few.
I've just been doing a little bit of pest bird control with the kids at the farm, so that's good.
Okay.
So,
Very good, and that's gone well.
not for the birds, no. Everyone else was pretty successful.
Well, as long as someone's happy, I guess that's the main thing.
Yeah.
Nice. I've been off to the PRS. That was good fun. That was probably the most dominant factor for me in the last few weeks. I'm sure we'll get into a little bit of that in due course. That's been all-consuming is probably the appropriate word. I even got a podcast out late because of it, although getting podcasts out late doesn't seem to be that hard a thing to do. Speaking of podcasts, hey Greg, I noticed your mate on the other podcast seems to have backed down his left-handed brigade against humanity.
No, he's trying to defend what can't be defended, I suppose. You know, he's a lefty. It's hard to shy away from, isn't it?
Yeah, I have to give some credit to where credit's due on the Hunting HQ podcast. I hear the Rum Barons has started standing up more for the right-handed people in the world.
Yeah, there's a bit of division in the team over at Hunting HQ. They've turned on themselves.
Okay. That's what happens when you let the lefties sort of start to edge up a little bit.
Yeah, you can't let them sort of get any momentum, that's for sure.
You got to treat them like North Korea, really.
Sanctions. Lots of sanctions.
Got to be firm with them.
Yeah, fair enough. So, a couple of things to follow up on. Speaking of PRS, the Vortex Cold Steel Open in Mildura went very well. 60 shooters and lots of rounds downrange and lots of targets being hit and plenty of targets being missed. One of the things to make mention of on the podcast was we ran a little competition to name a PRS stage.
Oh, we did too.
Remember that?
We're going to give something away, or other than just some credit, maybe?
Credit?
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah, actually we will. The name that we chose was That Escalated Quickly, which, for those playing at home, there's a movie reference there. Either of you guys know what it is?
No,
It's not coming to me.
I've got kids. I don't watch movies.
Well, this movie's a while ago, but it was from Anchorman.
Okay.
Yes.
Andrew's up to speed now. Yeah, Greg still doesn't know what
No,
a
I
movie
haven't
is.
seen that.
Yeah, no. Greg used to go to the movies back when they would play the piano next to it.
Well, that was on my horse. That was a while back.
Yeah, so Jeremy Cusack put that up on Facebook. So Jeremy, get in touch with us as soon as you can, and we shall organise to get something out to you. That stage was a stage where you had 15 rounds in a box behind you, and you would have to put your rifle down, go grab one round, run back, single feed it, shoot, target, I don't know, 250 or 260 or something. Then come back, grab 2 rounds out of the box, put 2 in, single feed, and then run back, grab 3 and continue on like that. Quite a challenging. I think a few guys managed to get all 15 off, but not that many. I think you had 2 minutes to do it, which sounds like a reasonable amount of time, but you also had to get up and down a fair bit and make sure you counted out the right number of rounds.
I was going to say probably accuracy killed more people than...
I think time.
Was it more
guys,
time?
Yeah, I think guys hit a lot, but just how much they hit.
So they were all right with heart rates and stuff like that.
Yeah. I think a lot of guys realised they'd probably never top-fed their guns before either.
Yeah, okay.
as well. So that was
Not a
lesson.
practice skill.
No, and being very adaptable for it. There's actually another relevant PRS stage name, another one, which was called Climbing the Badco Ladder,
Sounds good.
a rip-off of the Climbing the Corporate Ladder, which we thought was appropriate. So,
Was there like an extra entry fee for that stage, or?
it was cash prize. It was a cash prize. So,
A large cash prize,
a
I hope.
large cash prize. That's exactly right. You made an appearance there
wow.
by name, Greg.
I've been immortalised in a
Some
PRS
sort of
stage.
royalty deal coming on there, maybe.
No, it is all unofficial. This is the bootleg PRS stage.
Bootleg Badco.
There's a good brand there, if anyone's wondering. The other thing that happened at PRS is I had to weigh in on my weight loss Soldier On fundraiser from 5-6 weeks ago. So on the Saturday night, just before dinner, we had the room full. Most of the shooters were there, about 75, 76 people were all out for dinner, thanks to Mark 1 Developments, who put that dinner on for us. One of the local guys brought some scales along, and I had to jump on there hoping to be 118 or better. And I was nervous, but belt off, hat off, anything that was appropriate to take off I did.
The whole lot, Sam. The whole lot.
I said appropriate, which is up for debate. Anyway, and I was very fortunate. I weighed in at 117.4. So
Well done.
we clocked it by a little bit. And I think we've ended up raising, assuming those guys who committed to it have done so, somewhere around $700.
Oh, nice.
Sweet.
Yeah, that was really exciting. And then immediately afterwards, I got challenged to do another 10 for Buchan with the hashtag 10 for Buchan, and I'm declining.
Yeah, okay. Starting to push the limits.
Well, going back to back has not been I've not been motivated enough. What I got to do. It's amazing the difference when you put out to sort of 10,000 listeners saying, yeah, I'll do it. How much motivation you get to actually do it?
Yeah.
After a few drinks on the night, and you go, yeah, I think I might do it again. To a couple of blokes standing around you, motivation's not quite there.
Yeah.
So we might reintroduce that for the next PRS coming up later in the year, perhaps as another challenge. Try and do a bit of a fundraiser. So. I'll try and lose some weight for Buchan, but we won't make anything formal at this stage. Although those guys that were offering to do it, they were offering to do it as well themselves. So it'll be good. And something else that has come up since last time is we asked for some reviews on iTunes. And we did have a couple of guys jump on board and give us some reviews on iTunes, which thank you very, very much. So as per last time, we thought we'd chuck one of them into Google Translate. Now,
Here we go.
I can't remember what language this went into, but I think this got run through Estonian or something, or maybe 2 languages. Anyway, Andrew, please read our review.
Okay. Rusty, Andrew, and Greg are great to hear. Much useful information will be won if some of the heels are not very serious. Okay. And it is always a good time. Yep.
Got that bit right.
Yep. They also bring some informational guests like Bryce Bergen's long-range shooters in Utah. Continue good job with Maggots.
Have you been drinking, Andrew?
Yeah, I have actually. I think so as a translator.
You might be right. I think that last little bit about Maggots came because they put gents on the last
Oh,
part of it.
yeah, of course.
Lost in translation there.
No, I like this version better. Hey, one thing, Andrew, I wanted to ask you about, and we did have... there's been some comments floating around Facebook this last week about it, and I've had a phone call or two about it. Depriming 6.5mm Creedmoor brass from Lapia with the small primer pockets.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've seen this? You're familiar with the
No, I can see where this is going, though.
Yeah. So some guys have obviously been causing problems with their brass by their decapping pin striking.
Or
and
more to the point, jamming. Yeah.
Yeah. What do we need to know?
Get the right size decapping pin.
Hmm.
I mean, I know that most manufacturers would offer it. Like some particular brass obviously has small flash holes. So, yeah, I guess you just have to make sure if you got the small flash hole version of the brass that you just have the right size pin. I don't recall offhand what size it is, what the two
Small.
sizes are.
Small.
Oh, small and big. Make sure you got the small one.
See, I don't know what you're worried about.
Yeah, but it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
And I've got the small flash, the small primers on the 6x47. Is this just a unique thing to 6.5, or is it?
No. It's like 6mm PPCs, and there's a number of cartridges that have them. I guess it's considered to be sort of more uniform ignition and that sort of thing. So
the issue lies, Greg, that guys would have bought 6.5 creedmoor dies standard, and that would be set up for the larger flash hole.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And then, of course, they've got this Lapua brass, and they're getting jammed and stuck. And
all right.
yeah,
sorts
because
of things.
my guess
It's
is
a
obviously
transitional thing.
the spec on the cartridge was probably stipulated a
large,
standard large flash hole to start with. So,
So that's the
so
problem.
I would say just be aware of it. You know, whether you get the new stem for the die or not.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've got a Redding universal decapping tool off Projectile Warehouse, and that does a good job.
Yeah, I guess this is probably for guys that are not using a separate decapping die. They're using either full length or a neck die with a decapping pin, like rod and pin.
Yeah, with the expandable.
Not necessarily even with an expandable. If you're using bushing dies and you're not using the expandable on that stem, you've still got the pin there.
Yep.
I know you can get large and small versions, so you just have to make sure you get the right one.
Yeah.
So trap for new players?
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see whether die manufacturers go down the line of making the small pin as a standard, because that would still work in the large one.
Yeah, there's no downside to that, is there?
No, I mean, it's obviously a little bit smaller in diameter, so
doing
it
a
probably
bit more work.
could snap a bit more easily, but my guess is no, not really. I mean, if it's punching straight out and you're not misusing the die, it shouldn't be a problem.
Okay. Yeah.
So if all the die manufacturers are listening, that's I've painted that idea. I'll gladly take royalties on it.
Yeah, just send them to Badco.
No. He's cashed in enough.
The rich get richer, mate. That's how it works.
Yeah, I know.
That's why we're struggling. Greg's over there just drinking away on his, was that gold juice?
Gold juice.
Gold coloured juice. He's going to claim it's orange juice, but I saw the gold flakes in there. I know what you like. He's speechless. Since when did that happen?
Well, what do you say to that, though?
He's sort of like the modern day Cleopatra, really, isn't he?
Yeah, really. That's how you end up with golden tonsils, isn't it?
Oh, God knows. There's probably a few very inappropriate jokes you could tie to that.
We'll leave into Simo, I reckon.
Yeah.
So the other thing that's been going on this week in the US is the NRA meetings, the big public gun show. Have you guys been looking at any of that, following any of the releases there?
No.
Just a little. I say there's an interesting one from Sig, brought out their ballistic data exchange.
Yeah.
I know Nick Vitalbo's been involved with that. So
he has.
it's interesting.
Yeah.
Effectively just interfacing a rangefinder with a scope. I guess you could, it's probably not doing it justice to put it in the same sentence as a eliminator or that type of scope, but it doesn't, it uses a separate device for your range finding. But interesting concept.
Absolutely. It does seem, AB were involved with that as well, and it does seem they've been fairly active. One of the releases I saw from Kestrel was a Ruger Kestrel sort of 5700 equivalent. I don't know if you saw that at all.
No,
so
I didn't.
It's a Kestrel, and it comes preloaded, set up for Ruger rifles with recommended loads and such, and has all the data in there to get you hitting, various distances and stuff.
So effectively for guys that don't want to go through all that process themselves, they just plug and play.
It's a bit of a twist on that app, the adjusted AB app for just a particular...
For the Bushnell one.
Yeah, for the Bushnell.
Yeah, that's right. So it's an interesting move, and it's more of that sort of just straight out of the box, straight out of the box 1,000 capable sort of scenario where guys have everything they need in the box with the gun. Away they go. I'll get a picture of it up. Hang on.
Just so you know, Rusty, people listening can't see the picture. Just putting it out there.
See, we've said this before, and we've got these show notes where people can go and they can find a link, and in the link it'll take them to the things that we talk about. But, you know.
Shut up with your technology.
Yeah, I just heard blah, blah, blah. Technology, blah, you know.
Yeah.
Greg
No,
just
fair
wants to
call.
know what the purchase price is.
Of the company or the device?
Everything.
Okay, found it. The Ruger Kestrel 5700 ballistics weather meter. There you go. Have a little look at that. So that's an interesting thing, and I suspect we'll see more and more and more of that sort of, you know, coming with the rifle setup and out of the box sort of scenario.
And I guess that'll get people started, and they'll offer the firmware upgrades to go to full Kestrel, no doubt.
Yeah, you're probably
if it's
right.
a 5700 body,
You should be able to do
you
everything.
just pay the difference to go to a full as your interest grows. So it's a scalable,
Interesting.
Really
ballistic
good
tool. Yeah.
Really good move. So I suspect we'll see more of that. We'll see more of the devices hooking in with that SIG. Like as that SIG is, we'll see more devices hooking on the same tech.
Yeah, I mean, even the fact you've got scopes like that, the Revic, you know, making their. I mean, they're sort of, you know, on the market now. They're selling. So
Yeah.
I think it's going to be interesting what comes out in the next sort of year to 2 years in that regard. So
Absolutely. There will no doubt be a huge sort of increase in electro-optics and other such things, I suspect, and integration between devices, because it's happening everywhere else in the world, well, in life. So it's you know, inevitable, I guess, really. You know, you can dim your lights from your phone and yell at a little box that plays music. So there's all sorts of integrations like that happening, and we will see it in forum stuff as well. What do you reckon, Greg?
Yeah, it looks pretty good. It might already be like a fully functional Kestrel firmware, just under the Ruger banner.
it would be interesting to see if it has all the, you know, the custom drag profiles and that sort of thing.
Because I think with the Sportsman version, you had like a limited 800 metre range or something, wasn't it?
I suspect that this one is limited in some way, but again, I'm not sure.
There's no detail there. There's no.
No,
It does say I store up to 10 guns, but yeah,
who knows?
who knows?
It's a mystery.
I'm sure probably Kestrel and Ruger have got a fair idea.
Nah,
Maybe if they just send 3 of them to us and we'll evaluate that to...
6. I think 6. You want one in each hand, mate, to make this work.
You don't want anything in your left hand, really. Bound to go wrong.
I've got nothing to say to that. That's fair.
Sums it up, doesn't
Are
it?
you listening, Simo? Are you listening? Right, so there's some matches coming up around Australia as well. There is another PRS match in Buchan, just to clarify.
Yeah, right. I was a bit worried what you said there.
And that is Far East Gippsland in Victoria. If you're hoping to go to that one and you haven't booked in, it filled up in 10 hours. That one's full, but there is another match in not long now, a week and a half in Canberra, which is part of the Precision Service Rifle Series. So check that out. That's Canberra one on May 20th. Worthwhile. There is going to be another PRS released in the next week or so, and I don't think I can formally say anything about it. I can probably informally say it's going to be somewhere hot, and it's going to be in the middle of August, but I'm not sure I can formally say anything about it.
Well, I think anybody that lives in Australia will be able to put 2 and 2 together, roughly. It's in Hobart.
That's right. Hobart in August. Sounds crisp.
Oh, ba-dum-tsh.
Is there any other news?
There was a Rimfire event as well in Adelaide.
There was the Rimfire event as well. I don't have the date for the next one in front of me, although I think it's in July. So we'll certainly announce that in the next one.
All right.
I'm waiting on 2 Rimfire rifles.
Yeah, what are you waiting on?
Well, the Tika, which I've been waiting on forever.
Any
And,
news on that?
Mid-year, I heard, so I guess depends on...
Getting close.
This one or next?
Well, ask Beretta, I guess. No, so, and then I've picked up a little Lithgow number 12, Model 12, whatever you want to call it.
Good for PRS.
It probably would be, actually. I'd probably go in there and smoke rifles worth 10 times as much. No, it's a nice little gun, so a little bit of Australian history. So produced in about 1948, I think. So,
Very good. I do actually have some those Rimfire dates now. So there is a practical Rimfire Carnival in Mildura, where the PRS was held. That is on the last weekend in June, which is certainly have a date attached to it, whatever that may be.
the 30th and the 1st of July, yeah.
There you go, 30th. That's right. The other date is the one in Adelaide. It's actually in Tailem Bend, and I reckon that's the weekend afterwards. I reckon it's the Sunday, which is July the 8th. So back-to-back Rimfire competitions happening within 5 hours of each other. Pretty good to see that sort of stuff happening. So you can we'll link some details on Facebook about those two. The Mildura one is through the Long Range Shooting Club, based out of SSAA Mildura, and the other one is at a Tailem Bend Club, which I don't know the name of. Tailem Bend Shooting Club, we'll guess. And that's part of the Practical Rimfire Challenge, which you can find on Facebook. So there's some competitions happening. Greg, read that question out that we had come in from a listener, if you would be so kind.
Okay, this is from Richard. Love your show. Just got a question. I have a PRS...
Sorry, I didn't hear the first bit again. Sorry, can you just say that again? I didn't hear that properly.
So this is
from Richard.
From Richard?
Yeah, heard that bit.
He's got a question for us.
Love your show.
That was the bit,
Oh, yeah. That is satisfying. I won't do it a third time. Love your show. Just got a question. I have a PRS-style rimfire, a CZ455, 16-inch with an LSS22 chassis and some cool bits on it. You've got to have cool bits. But I was wondering about glass. What do you guys think would be a good scope and reticle for 10 to 200 metres for a rimfire? Happy to dial or hold. Cheers. Just for interest's sake, two budgets, $500 and $1,000.
Right. Now, before you answer, this may make things easier. I ran our question through Google Translator, just through two languages, including Afrikaans, and I thought it might make more sense if we read it out this way. It says, if you love your show, you just have a question. In the PRS style, the CZ455 has a 16-inch LSS 22 chassis and a few cool pieces, but I wonder about the glass. You think Fairy Tales will have a good 10 to 200 metres and cover the boat. I'm lucky to call. The discipline makes only the two budget $500 and $1,000 happy.
God, when you read those, it reminds me of like a night on the Terps and the second bottle, you know?
Either that or it's a North Korean listener sending a question in.
We've got a fair audience in North Korea.
Not anymore.
No, we don't.
Tomorrow they won't be with us anymore.
You're welcome to answer either of the questions. What do you guys, any thoughts, any go-to bits and pieces?
I guess I start thinking from the reticle point of view. So what sort of drops, you've done a few PRS rimfires. You don't really shoot beyond 200, or do you have the odd... I'm just thinking what would be a good reticle to cover without dialing the most likely sort of drops. I think you're going to be fine out to...
Well, it's interesting because today, actually, ironically, had a conversation with a friend of mine who manages a gun shop in Victoria, and I was sort of looking for a cheapish scope to put on this Lithgow 22, and had been looking at some of the Hawk optics range. And they do a line of their lower priced models, and I actually committed to. I haven't actually bought it yet, but committed to buy a 3 to 9 by 40 with a 22 subsonic specific reticle, which from all accounts is very close with most brands of subsonic 22 ammunition.
Okay. Out to what range?
200 yards. And interestingly, in the literature with the scope, it also tells you if you want to use because it's actually marked on the reticle from 0 at 50 and then in 25 yard increments. If you want to use them in meters, you have to set the scope on 7.9 power rather than 9 power, and then it subtends correctly for meters.
Perfect.
And you're talking a $300 retail scope.
Yep.
Look, I mean, you may want to spend more than that. It depends on sort of what you want, I guess. But that's sort of what I've settled on. And I mean, I've checked out a fair few reviews on them, and people are saying that it's pretty close. It's certainly close enough to hit rabbits and whatnot. So yeah,
you should be able to tweak it again with zoom, like you say. If it's not quite right at its calibrated zoom, you should be able to just tweak it either way to sort of calibrate it.
Yeah, and I mean, the sort of all the reviews I could find were that one guy had been quite extensive with his testing and had tested 7 or 8 different 22 loads, subsonic loads, all around the same velocity.
Yep.
And he found he was very, very close with all of them.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
So, I mean, that obviously, there's no dialing or anything involved with that. You zero and then just hold on the reticle. So what it didn't have is windage holds. So, if you're wanting a Christmas tree type reticle or an inverted pine tree or whatever we talked about in an episode a while back.
A sapling.
A sapling, that's right, with multiple branches. If you wanted those wind holds, which obviously can be a pretty serious consideration if you got any kind of wind at all with a 22, but that could sort of write that out of the option, but just as a basic option.
You asked before, Greg, about how sort of distances, that factor into this sort of gear. And I think that we will see an increase in that. So the practical Rimfire challenge guys here in Adelaide have been running sort of comps out to about the 80 to 100-ish metres tops, because they've been mostly on pistol ranges.
Yeah.
And so that's sort of the limits that they've got access to. They've got some other benefits of being able to shoot much more in an IPSC sort of style, sort of being able to swing around sort of side to side a lot more on a more angle than sort of traditionally a lot of the rifle comps have been able to be run on. I think the one up in Mildura is going to be getting out to 300 metres.
Yeah, okay.
I think. And then the ones that will be starting up down at Monado here will be out to, I think it'll be a gradual thing. They'll start out probably 150 or so, and then edge out for some part of the challenge to see where they end up.
Yep.
Well, that new March scope we discussed, I think, on a previous podcast, they talk about being able to dial out to 1,000 with a 22.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll work. So I looked up a couple of options for Richard, thinking that the fairy tales will have a good 10 to 200 metres. Around the $500 budget, I know that the Falcons have been popular. It's an M18, which is a 4 to 18 by 44 and first focal plane and dialable and still reasonable reticle options. And they're about $540 from scoped out. Big thing on those is, or big thing actually on any of these, is the parallax will come down close enough. So they're a 10 metre parallax, 10 metres out from there. In the higher price bracket, there's the Vortex Viper PST, the Gen 1 of them. They're a high magnification scope of 624. They're about $1,000, but your parallax is going to start at 50 yards. So your closest stuff, if you're going to have to be really accurate with it, you're going to potentially introduce some parallax error. I did have a look, and I don't know a lot about this one, but the Sightron 3 to 16 by 42 S-TAC. You guys heard of them at all?
I've heard of Sightron, certainly, and heard generally good things. I haven't looked into that specific model, though.
I know a number of the Rimfire shooters over in the States have been running Sightrons and some of the larger stuff, but trying to keep the budget in mind. I think these ones ran around the $900, but they're a parallax from 9 yards, and they were dialable, and they had reasonable reticles and all that sort of gear. So they may be worth having a look at. Yeah. So that should be... There's a couple of thoughts from me.
Yeah, I mean, there are probably more options in the $1,000-ish mark, I would say. I mean, I haven't really been looking at a lot of the newer options, but I mean, even some of the Bushnell LRHS models, the older models, I think a lot of places are sort of running them out for pretty reasonable prices, sort of just over the grand mark.
Do you know what they come down to on parallax? Because that's the kicker on that Rimfire gear.
No, offhand I don't. I'd have to look that up. But
Because if you end up with a real small target, say 20 metres or 25, which is not uncommon if you're doing like a KYL or something, your parallax is well and truly enough to not just miss it, but miss it by a fair bit. Yeah, that's a big consideration, I think, when we look at the Rimfire gear.
probably the biggest consideration, really.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Absolutely. Richard, hopefully we've resolved your question. Both questions, depending on the language used.
With much happiness.
No, it was just happy.
Okay.
Just happy. Are you happy, Greg?
Very, always. Does it come through in my voice?
Except Monday to Friday from 9
Yeah,
to 5.
Monday to Friday. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, on to some data. I know you guys love crunching data. But I've got some data back from... Oh, yeah, don't look at that. You're cheating, Andrew. I got some data back from the Vortex Cold Steel Open. And this information will be slowly released. But this particular one might kick us off in a bit of a discussion tonight. This is all the information from what the guys used at the competition in terms of equipment and bits and pieces. So the first one we'll kick off with is cartridges. Can you guys take a guess at what was the most popular cartridge in 2018, the Vortex Cold Steel Challenge? Open.
I'd be betting 6.5 Creed would be.
How much are you betting, Andrew?
Half a bottle of port.
Is that all we got left? Oh, no, there's another quarter of a bottle over there.
There's another 2 bottles, don't worry about that.
What do you reckon, Greg?
I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah, no, it's a bet I would not take. The 6.5 Creedmoor was 44% of the field.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
All the cool kids.
All the cool kids and some of the rest as well. Anyone wanted to guess what number 2 is in that field? And by anyone, I mean you guys, because no one else is here.
I would say 6 mil Creed,
Yeah,
but
something 6 mil.
maybe that's only the really cool kids that are running that currently. 6.5 or 47.
Just
260?
have another little think. Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go. Did you lean over and have a look?
My eyes aren't that good.
He's cheating, Sam.
We're already discussing how my phone switched itself to large font for me.
Okay, I'll pay that. Yeah, 260. That was honestly, that was a surprise to me.
Before we go any further, you owe me half a bottle of port too.
I said there's a bet I'm not willing to
Actually,
take.
Will you tell me what cartridge won?
What cartridge? Yes, I can.
What cartridge won?
6.5 Creed. 6.5 Creedmoor.
I guess you had a 50-50 chance.
I do believe that's correct. Now I'm doubting. Ash Porner won, and I'm pretty sure he was running a 6.5 Creedmoor. Sorry, Ash, if I got that wrong. Pretty sure that's right. Anyway, yes, 260 was second, which I was surprised actually when I saw that. We'll go one more. Any guess what third was?
308.
Yeah, spot on. 12% of the field were running 308, 15% running 260s. And then from there, 6x47 was next, and then a splattering of 708, 6.5 SLR, 6XC, 6 Dasher, 6 Super LR, or SLR, BRX, Win Mag. There's a Win Mag there.
Yeah, right.
243, 223. There's a few 223s there.
What was the largest? Was it 300 Win Mag?
Yeah, 300 Win Mag. It was just the one gun was the only long action in the field.
Okay.
Anyway, so this brings me on to a point. I'm going to build a new gun.
Exciting time.
Thanks for amusing me, mate. Yeah,
and what is this gun's purpose?
Oh, good question, Greg. Nothing like, what are you getting, or this or that. What is the gun's purpose? I like the way this man thinks. And he's just reached for a drink.
I've been listening to you guys for long enough on this podcast. I'm actually saying the right things now.
He's got a script, doesn't he? Lucky we gave him that script. Really good question. The purpose is a PRS competition gun. And that is the limitation of it. Just that's all it's set up for. So that is my goal over the next little while. I'm not in a big rush. I've got a few guns that I want to sell off and move a few things on, and then really focus on best in class or whatever it may be. But I'm going to ask you, dear listener, to get involved with this because over the coming episodes and bits and pieces, we'll discuss sort of like we did with yours, Greg, back in the day.
Yeah.
Back when none of us were going
Very
grey.
early days, wasn't it?
Yeah, we all had colour in our hair back then. Well, maybe not Greg, but...
No, it was grey as.
But the similar sort of process, sort of talking about, sort of some decisions, but really want some input from those out there who are using the various bits and pieces. So obviously reading up on those results from PRS has got me thinking about calibre. Well, where you guys both own 6x47s, don't you?
Yeah.
If you were to put something together now with this sort of purpose in mind, would that be your main goal? Your first choice?
I think I'd stay with a 6x47 that I chose.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I like the cartridge, no doubt. One of the reasons I built it has now been kind of addressed with the new small primer 6.5 Creed brass.
Okay, yeah.
Or 6 Creed brass as well. I'd possibly go down that line, but just the fact that everybody's doing it would probably force me to choose something else. I'd run something like a 22-338 or something like that.
Who would do that? You'd probably hit the muzzle velocity limit pretty quickly there.
No, they're only sub 3,000 feet a second.
Just don't use the crony.
I mean, look, the reality is the 6.5 Creed is probably the choice because of availability, and you can get brass, you can get everything for it, certainly, and everybody chambers for it. And I picked up something I didn't read too closely into it, but like US about to adopt it as a military cartridge.
Yeah, Greg put that up today, didn't you? What was that?
I'm not sure whether was it to replace 5.56 or
7.62. They said in the article.
Okay, like as a sniping cartridge, or
as
as
the
a
standard
machine gun?
sniping cartridge, and they made the statement that it's going to improve their hit chance by was it 50% or something, or no, double their hit chance at a K.
I mean that would be easy enough to work that stuff out using AB to just run the figures, but I mean, look, like anything that gets picked up by the military, its cost comes down to run it. I mean, give it 2 or 3 years, and even now, just brass 6.5 Creedmoor brass would be a lot cheaper and a lot more available than the 6.5 by 47. So,
all right, here we go. This is from Army Times. Top special operations snipers will replace their 7.62 sniper rifles with a caliber that doubles their hit probability at 1,000 metres, increases their effective range by nearly half, reduces wind drift by a third, and has less recoil. What caliber is that, might you ask? The 6.5 Creedmoor. Yeah, so Big Army has been at work on its own intermediate caliber rifle round as officials simultaneously develop the next generation squad automatic rifle to replace the existing 5.56 squad automatic weapon, etc., etc. So,
wow. So they're saying 6.5 Creed as a
Machine
section weapon, as a machine gun.
there has been a multiple discussion over a number of years that something like a 260 initially was the discussion. It would replace both ends of the spectrum and sort of meet everyone in the middle.
Yeah.
And that will be interesting to see. Okay.
I hope I'm not right, but I have a feeling that could be ultimately be the death of the 6.5 by 47 lap.
Yeah.
Actually,
Yep. Just through pure
like
military popularity.
The 6.5 Creed's got this slight edge on it, very slight edge on it. But if you're looking at building a rifle, would you go down a line of a brass that might cost you 3 times its price? I mean,
when you say the slight edge on it, what do you mean, Andrew?
I think the 6.5 Creed compared to the 6.5 by 47 is a little bit faster with the same projectiles and that sort of thing. You can load them up a little bit more.
A little bit more capacity in it?
Yes, not a lot, minimal.
Yeah.
So for me, that wouldn't be an issue. But if you're looking at a cartridge in that sort of size,
Yep.
I mean, it'd be a no-brainer really. If you can get brass of equal quality and it costs a third, and just availability, if you can go into any gun shop and buy it versus having to, ring around and
True.
scrounge the odd packet here and there, and I think give it 5-10 years and the 6.5 or 47 maybe a dinosaur.
The Creed will probably become the new 308.
Yeah, until something else
everywhere
comes
you
along,
can buy
and
it
then,
everywhere. Yeah.
and the cool kids will be onto something else. So.
So let me chuck down a couple of additional parameters, because this project is sort of going to be longer term, and no doubt we'll talk about other aspects of it in due course. And I'm doing it, I guess, on this public forum, so I hope others that are thinking the same thing, or have been shooting production in PRS and want to change up, or are thinking about getting into it and wanting to put their own thing together. A couple of parameters I've got for the overall project is yes, it's a PRS dedicated gun. Now at the moment, that's really a 500-600 meter gun as a requirement, potentially more, but for the sort of short-term foreseeable future, that's the main requirements there. So I'm open to, from a caliber point of view, to a few things. In the same setup, I want to be able to run a 22, so as a separate gun, but in terms of stock/chassis options, I want something that will run a 22 as a trainer. Not necessarily to compete within the rimfire shoots, although that's definitely not off the cards. That will certainly play a factor. And I do like the option of being able to perhaps either set it up as a 223 trainer as well. But I think what I really like is some ability to switch that barrel out to change over into a 223 with a different bolt or bolt face on the same gun. That's like an optional feature there, or the ability as well, and another optional feature to be able to swap barrels out, so I could get maybe 2 barrels or 3 barrels chambered at the same time off the same reamer for the same cartridge, to be able to sort of shoot one out and then replace one without sort of any downtime as well. So I know all these things are possible. I know they're feasible, but they may sort of shoehorn me into particular decisions as well. So for the feedback we're going to get from our listeners, that's what I'm thinking. That's the goal, the target. I do have the glass worked out to some degree. I'm either going to be running a Razor Gen 2 from Vortex or a Carles K624i. So the glass is probably not coming to this debate at all. It really is the gun and the platform it's set up on.
Or possibly a zero compromise optic scope.
Or possibly a zero compromise optic scope as well. I mean, instead of.
You could put it on there as well if you wanted.
Well, I'm going to need one for each eye, don't I?
That's true.
Very expensive
Binos.
binoculars.
So that's the scale of things. So the other question that we didn't quite get to in caliber is we talked about the 6.5 Creedmoor versus 6.5 by 47. So you guys are running 6s. Is 6 a better option, or given the distance restrictions, is 2-4 a consideration?
I would say 6mm probably not, just from the fact of the amount of rounds you're firing. You'll have less barrel life with the 6mm than you will a 6.5.
Okay.
Yeah, when you were discussing, what you wanted this rifle to be physically capable of, and the distances you were shooting, 223 would do all those things.
Mm-hmm.
No problem, really. I mean,
one of the challenges we had at the PRS in Mildura was the ROs calling impacts on 223s. It was, and I experienced this firsthand. In fact, guy got a reshoot because we didn't feel we called it correctly, and we got asked about it, and we went ahead with the reshoot because we were standing as spotters. I got called in to help out because it was a 2-3 out at 600, and tell you what, I was second guessing myself because I was on an angle to the shooter about it, and anyway, under the reshoot, I stood directly behind him so I could follow the trace. And it was chalk and cheese being able to see the impacts from it. But had that not have played out that way, I would have, if I was the one shooting, potentially missed out on a number of points because I didn't push those targets. Now, it was a KYL rack, so the larger targets were quite large and heavy and didn't swing much, although they were relatively easy shot. The other thing that perhaps was in that factor is I think they were lighter projectiles. It could have been 55s or something along those lines, and that would have made it a lot harder to see versus punching it with like a 77 or 80 grainer or 85 grainer as well. So that's the only sort of hesitation in my mind about something that's in the lighter setup.
I was seeing a similar thing with 6.5 and 6 mils on one of the PRIs. A little bit of heat haze. I think it was out about around 900, and it was tough to pick the 6 mil. You really only picked it easily because of the kick of the dust.
Yeah.
But yeah, 6.5 mil, easy to pick.
Yeah, consideration, particularly for the longer range matches, which which aren't necessarily on the cards in the next 12 months.
Yeah, right.
Here, although potentially there will be. So you think 6.5?
With those things as concerns, I mean, if I had to choose, if I was going to build a PRS gun, I wouldn't go 6 mil predominantly for the barrel life.
Okay. Good consideration.
Yeah, and I like 6 mil, but I built mine for hunting.
Yeah,
you
true.
don't tend to fire as many rounds. So, I mean, well, you can if you're spotlighting, I guess, but
or if you're really bad at it.
yeah, or both. If you're spotlighting and you're really bad at it. But I mean, so it would probably be a 6.5, maybe a 7 mil.
That'd be your preference.
Just another question too. You know how we've talked about in the past these new hit indicators?
Yeah.
Are they going to become more of a frequent thing as competitions progress,
Yes,
do you think?
They will.
So does that remove some of that visual argument?
That's a really good point. To clarify what you're talking about, there's a couple of brands of the indicators, Magneto Speed and Light React, for example, and when you hit the targets, they flash some sort of light somewhere, and the idea is to assist, in a competition format, to assist the RO to confirm their thoughts about a call. Now, we use 3 of those Magneto Speed, the T1000s and Mildura, and the RO said that they helped immensely, and certainly our intention is that in time we will have more and more of those and at closer and closer distances, because there's almost no reason apart from dollars to not have them.
Yeah.
Because they, as an RO, they make it so much easier to go, that was gotten comfortably. And they really back up what you were thinking as well.
From a shooter's point of view, though, Greg, I think if you've got a bigger projectile, you're going to see it. Hitting the targets are well and good, but in PRS comps, the ROs aren't allowed to give you any feedback if you miss. So being able to spot your own misses has got to be a concern as well.
Big kick.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to shoot a 17 Remington. Yes, it might get there on some of the shorter ranges, but you're not going to be able to see where it's hitting if you miss. So
maybe I'll build a 308.
I think you should.
Controversial.
45, 90 in a Sharps.
The Sharps, in a KRG chassis. I think that might be been done.
Yeah, if somebody was going to do it, I think
think we know who.
Yes.
I think it has been done. It's photos flying around. It's quite a good photo, actually. If I can try and get my hands on that, we'll put it in the show notes. You know that thing in the show notes where people can see what we're talking about? Andrew?
I know exactly what you're talking about. I study them every podcast, Sam.
I thought you might. Anyway, so that's the kickoff of this particular project for me and some of the results from the PRS. So calibers, guys, if you are listening to this, please let us know what you shoot and why you've chosen what you shoot, and if you were going to choose again, what you would do, or your next gun, what caliber you're going.
And more to the point, why? Sort of hear the reasoning behind it.
Yeah, really want to know why you chose what you chose, and we will put that information out from whatever you did to help me make a decision, but also to help those who are listening along, and that will make up some follow-up on our next episode. So get in touch via Facebook or email through the website or anything along those lines, or just ring Andrew. His phone number is...
What's your number, Greg?
And let us know. what your experiences have been and what you enjoy shooting. I probably should clarify for those who are not familiar with PRS, a restriction that is on that caliber choice is 3,200 feet per second, and it's got to be a 30 cal or less. Although we did go straight to 6.5s and 6s, so there's probably an inherent bias there. I know what'll end up happening. I'll build a 25 Creedmoor or something like that, something strange.
So what's your budget?
Don't really.
Or just a piece
really
at a time?
Yeah, that's just...
And just buy once, cry once?
Yeah, I haven't really set a budget. I'm probably not going to buy a Habu chassis from GOG.
Yeah.
But...
Oh, come on, where's your sense of adventure?
Well, my sense of adventure is everywhere to be seen, but my dollars are not. You're looking on this side of the couch, mate, not on that side of the couch over there.
We'll put two and two together and you get what you want.
Well, Greg?
Oh.
It's a chassis that'd probably only be about $5,000 Australian.
Oh, okay.
If not more. Yeah.
Yeah. So but there is one at least floating around in Australia. I have seen.
Actually, Danny from Delta is shooting Buchan. I wonder if he will notice if it goes missing partway through the match.
Just replace it with a Whiskey 3 or something and see if he notices.
I was thinking like a ticker stock
Yeah, go with that.
plastic ticker stock.
Yeah, you'd never pick that.
He would never see that. I've got an old Remington stock there. He runs something that'll fit into a Remington. That'll be fine. He'll never know. Danny, stop listening. You'll never know.
Fully floated.
Remington's increased in value now. They're out of business.
Fully shoplifted. Yeah, perfect. All right, very good, guys. Well, actually, I did have something else. We finally have our live stream back up and running for Patreon. Hello, Patreon viewers who have been watching us for the last bit of time. A massive thanks to those who are involved with Patreon. It has allowed us to upgrade a few things, and we have some more upgrades on their way and coming, which is excellent. So if you do like what we do and you want to give us $1 a month or more, jump on a Patreon. You do get some benefits for it. And if you don't like what we do, that is also okay. Just stop listening now. You're probably left-handed as well.
They can buy their way out of that.
Making the big presumption that left-handers know how to use computers.
Yeah, I know, right.
Left-handed mice,
pushing the
don't
limit.
they?
Pushing the limit.
I had a listener accost me at Mildura. Gentleman came up and said to lay off left hand. He said, I'm a listener and thanks. And he was, shooting PRS and thanks for coming, man. He goes, I just, like the podcast, just, lay off left handers. Said, no chance, mate. No chance at all. And in fact, I'm going to disqualify for the entire match.
I was about to say, how hard did you punch him?
And he did actually win something off the prize table, and then I rescinded the option to go and pick up a prize because, hang on, he's left-handed, so sorry. So, see what you've done, Simo. See what you've done. This is your fault, mate.
But, I mean, you do, in this age of inclusiveness and all that kind of rubbish, you have to include disabled people. So
they're fine, mate, but it's left-handers I won't tolerate.
It's pretty unfair to people that are genuinely disabled, by birth. And
that's right. I'm happy to involve them immensely. Absolutely.
Let's get some left-handers are people too T-shirts made up for giveaways, Sam.
I was going to get a T-shirt made up saying I couldn't afford Bagco signatures, so I just got Rusty's.
I do have a work colleague that's been rocking around in a precision shooting podcast T-shirt. I've frequently offered to sign it for him, but he rejects my offer.
I hope he's loaded.
Oh, yeah. He's got Bagco money.
Speaking of which, we did mention last episode that the Impact book that we had from Rodney Mays, we are going to give away a couple of copies, and we are going to do that. Your opportunity to win the Impact book will be coming up in the next episode, so stay tuned for that. Please, if you've got a moment, jump on iTunes, give us a review, and if it works well in translators, we may even read it out. Greg, what language are we going to go for next time? Your choice, on the spot.
Mexican.
C.
CC. See? What's that? Spanish.
Mexican.
Albanian.
Anything else, gents?
Nope.
I think we're in enough trouble as it is. Give us a review. That would be great. Thank you. And books to give away next episode. And we'll talk. What are we going to talk about next episode in terms of the part of the gun that we're going to talk about? Actions, barrels, muzzle brake. No, probably not muzzle brakes yet.
Stocks.
So you're thinking action, because action's going to dictate your stock, isn't it? Because if you want a certain footprint that you can interchange, that's probably going to dictate that. Yeah. Am I talking rubbish? So
no, sensible.
Maybe start with the action, so then you can make other decisions off that.
I feel a Defiance plug coming on from Greg.
Why didn't I think of that?
All right, well, we shall defy our odds and talk about actions next.
Yeah, we'll choose a Defiance action next week.
And we'll be very precise and surgical about it. Impact. And we'll look at the international effects of accuracy on that as well. I'm just trying to make Greg turn red.
No.
Which is so weird. He's going pink in the cheeks.
It's the pork. It's the booze.
We're out of here. Cheers, guys.
Thanks for listening to the Precision Shooting Podcast. To continue the discussion, check out our Facebook page. And for more information, head to our website, www.precisionshootingpodcast.com.au. This episode was brought to you by Scoped Out Shooting Optics and Accessories.